Hello Linux fans, Rob here and welcome to Linux Quest. Well, it's time to move on from April Fool's OSs and take a look at real distributions. So we're going to have a multi-part look at the release candidate of Deepin 15.4. So let's check it out. Okay, so it's time to move on from April Fool's distributions to real distributions. I've always kept my eye on Deepin OS because it looks different from any other distribution out there, and they do things differently than any other distribution out there. Now, this will be a multi-part series because there's a lot going on here, and this is a release candidate, but I don't think a lot of the aesthetics and the overall UI will change much. So this, again, will be a look first at the aesthetics, the overall feel of the OS, and I want to kick it off really with the photos, a slideshow. I took photos during the install because this was the most beautiful install of any distribution that I can think of recently. It was so polished and just so well done. It really stands out. So I'm going to run a little slideshow here of some of the photos I took during the install, and then we'll jump back in. Okay, so those weren't the sharpest images. I essentially took photos of the install with my phone, and but at any rate, you get the idea. It's just a beautiful, fluid install. All right, so before we look at the UI and the aesthetics and some of the visual changes, let's jump over here and take a look at the Deepin page, and this is Deepin.org. And so they talk about some of the 15.4 changes, and there's quite a lot here, and I'm not going to go through everything for the video, but you'll see here they kind of listed out here under the desktop. So they have new wallpapers. We'll take a quick look at those. They've optimized the keyboard layout functions, so you can now switch by shortcut keys, optimize details of the UI. Lots of optimization and tweaks here. They've added custom weather location, and it's really nice. Added controls for playing music, other plug-in features. And under the launcher, they've optimized the UI and the interaction. There were some issues with the launcher here, or the panel at the bottom, where you would get icons that would kind of come out of focus until you scrolled back over, so they fixed that in the dock. Also under the launcher, they've adjusted the fonts and styles and things like that. Some adjustments and optimization to the Windows Manager. And then they have pre-installed Foxit Reader for PDFs, fixed security vulnerabilities of the kernel. They fixed an issue where Steam could not update. And it looks like they fixed issues with some the network card, a BCM 4322. So if you have that particular card, they fixed that. And problems with other beta bugs. And so if you want to see more details, just head over to Deepin.org, and I'll put a link in the video notes. All right, so we're going to move on from there. Well, there are several things that stand out with Deepin. One is the control panel, which we'll look at in just a moment, and the other is their dock. Now, this isn't the only distribution with a dock. However, they've done a very nice job with the polish and the overall professional look, and a large part of that is due to their own custom icons. And it's a great combination in that it's not entirely flat. I'm going to say it's more flat than you see on other icons, but it's got enough color and enough shadow or difference in look that they really stand out, but they're very, very professional looking. So speaking of the dock, there's several things that you can do to adjust the dock. And so if you go over to the launcher and right click, you've got a couple of modes. There used to be 3 modes, now there's only 2 modes. So we're currently in fashion mode, and then you have efficient mode. So that takes it out to more of a traditional um, plank, if you will, or panel, excuse me, as opposed to the dock. So we're going to go back over here to fashion mode. You've got some other options for location, so now you can choose top, bottom, left, and right. Early on in the days of Deepin, you only had a choice for top and bottom. Then they added the other 2 locations, and that continues here through 15.4. So let's go ahead and select top so you can see what that looks like. And we'll move it over as well to the left for those of you who are used to Ubuntu. And let's just go ahead and move it over to the right so you can see what that looks like. And then we'll take it back to the bottom. All right, and then the other option includes size. Now I've got it set to large just for video purposes. So there is medium, and that's probably about where I would keep it for this particular monitor. And then we could go on down to small. All right, now you've got one other mode, and that is status. And your option here is to keep it shown, keep it hidden, or smart hide. So of course smart hide, like many other planks and things like that, smart hide will allow this to move out of the way when you have a full screen window or application open. All right, we're going to go back up to large so you can just see things a little better. Now the other thing I like about the dock here in Deepin is you have interactive icons. So if we had trash in the trash bin, we could right click and empty that. If you click on the clock, you're going to launch into the Deepin calendar. Then you'll have some options here. If you right click, you could disable the network or go right into network settings as opposed to launching into some control window. And then the volume here, you can adjust that on the fly by moving your mouse wheel up and down. So you'll see interaction with various icons. All right, let's take a look at the Fullscreen Launcher here, and that's all you get. That's the only option you have, but you do have an option for categories. Now I prefer the categories on. You simply left click and you can toggle those categories on or off. And you'll notice here when you go to a category, it scrolls to that category to the very top. So if we were to come down here and go to Office, that's just going to scroll up here to the top. Now you could also search, and I find that it's kind of just a universal search. So if we do VLC, for example, you'll notice it doesn't just zero in on VLC. It's found a couple of other things for whatever reason. All right, so let's go back here, and we'll start back up here at the Internet category, and I'll just highlight here for you as you scroll over any given application, you'll see that the background changes to a darker color just to visually show you, hey, that's what you're getting ready to select. So that's a nice touch. And again, you'll just see how beautiful the icons are. Now this feels a little more fluid to me than the last time that I ran the Deepin desktop, which was on Manjaro. Just going from memory, even earlier versions of Deepin, there were times when it would get just a little laggy. Now I've got this on the exact same hardware that I ran Manjaro Deepin in previous versions of Deepin of the Deepin OS on. So I think things just feel a little smoother. All right, so let's just quickly run down the list of pre-installed software. Google Chrome is default. That's the only browser installed. Skype was installed by default, as well as Thunderbird and Remote Assistance. You'll notice here Spotify was installed. Now you're going to see some Deepin apps, and we're going to take a look at those apps a little later in a later segment. But you had Deepin Movie. The screen recorder, I believe, is new for this version. And then I installed OpenShot, Simple Screen, and VLC, as well as ArcTime and FlowBlade. So the only 2 under video were Deepin Movie and Deepin Screen Recorder. I did launch Deepin Screen Recorder, and while it recorded the screen just fine, I couldn't find anywhere to set up settings for audio. Next on the list under graphics, we're going to see Deepin Screenshot and Deepin Image Viewer. And I know for those of you playing games, you'll love the fact that Steam is in place and set up. And then under Office, you'll see WPS Office is their default. WPS comes out of China, and the Deepin OS is also out of China. Then you've got a text editor, Deepin Cloud Print, Scan, and Print settings. Not familiar with this. I'll dig into that later. Now this was new. Here you've got the Foxit reader, which is a very nice PDF reader, and that's new for 15.4. That's under Reading. All right, so if we go to System, you're going to see the File Manager, the Store. We definitely are going to take a look at the Store because that's kind of one of the unique features of Deepin, where they do things a little different. Deepin Terminal, Simple Scan, that's nice to have in place. They've got their own bootmaker. You'll see the Deepin Calendar, which we popped up there earlier, and Control Center, which we definitely want to look at because there's been a lot of visual changes there. You've got Gparted set up, as well as the GW package installer was already in place, Driver Manager, and the ICE-T web control panel for ICE-T, as well as Open Java. Now this one I've always found interesting, but I haven't dug in deep enough to know what the deal is. But Crossover Office, and this is under Other, so this is the last one. Crossover Office is already pre-installed, which makes it easier to set up various bits of Windows software. And I'm not sure if this is the paid version or what, but again, I'll dig into that a little deeper. All right. So overall, this is effective. This is going to look, if you've looked at GNOME, the GNOME desktop, then that will look familiar to you as far as application launchers go. All right, the next thing we want to take a look at for this segment is the Control Center. And this is an area that really allowed Deepin to stand out. I've seen a few other distros that come close. There's some things that come to mind when we look at this Control Center. I think of Solus with their Raven menu that pops out. So the previous version of Deepin had a much different looking control center. It was black with gray hues. It wasn't translucent like this is. And I really like the bold look of it. So when I saw this change, I really wasn't, I was kind of mixed. It was okay, but the more I've used it, the more I think it looks modern and kind of polished and professional. So it's coming around for me. You'll see here on this is your kind of your default once you launch into the control panel, and you can also do that by just moving your cursor over to the far right corner. So updates have been detected, so this would be the second set of updates if I were to install this now, which I'm not going to, but I had a small update when I first launched in. You've got your clock with your date and everything. Here you could launch in and modify the avatar for the user. And these all look, from memory, these all look about the same as what they had previously. You could modify the password and toggle on or off auto login. You could create a different account. Now you've got a lot of information here as I scroll down. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. You'll see here again, this is 15.4. And this is the 64-bit version. Now you've got another option down here. Well, here you've got the license, and then you've got startup menu. So from there you could have a startup delay, and then you've got a theme that you can toggle on or off. Now I'm going to jump back over here, and this is something I appreciate, and this is kind of a large icon category group so that you can quickly launch into the various settings. Now, this is your control panel. There is no other area that I have found where you can go in and adjust the settings. You do everything from this panel. So you've got this where you could, this is your default where you could take a quick look here for any updates. You can get your weather report here. You've got some quick settings for audio as well as brightness. And then down here you've got quick settings for Bluetooth, Wi-Fi or network, your monitor settings, and I was able to get this set up on an external display and had both monitors set up, and things were working the way I wanted. Currently it's just outputting to one display, and then you've got all of the settings. So again, this is where you'll start. You could quickly launch into it from here or jump up here to the tiled icon interface. All right, so let's just first, we looked at accounts, but we'll jump back into accounts. So if you wanted to create a new account or adjust anything there, we'll kind of go in order. Then next you've got display. So you see if I click display, it's going to take me back to that icon view. And then if I click there, it just takes me right back to display. So that's, I guess if you wanted to quickly jump from one to the other, then you could do that. All right, so under display, again, you can control brightness here, but we had that also at the bottom in the default control panel. Now here you're able to set up various settings, and I actually did that by mistake and caused my monitor settings to change from what I really wanted, so I'm not going to click through anything there, but you could set up custom settings. Let's go to default applications, and so from here you could go in. Let's say if we had 2 different or 3 different browsers, you could simply select it and that'll become default. So very simple, easy to navigate. Under personalization, there's a lot to look at here. You've got various themes. Now I've got deep and dark set up, and then it comes with 3 different icon themes. And so you've got the default Deepin. Let's switch it over to C here, and we'll see what that looks like. So you'll notice some changes there, very kind of cartoonish. We'll leave it at that. Well, let's take a quick look at flatter. We'll see what that looks like. Not a lot different. So we'll go back to C. But you've got a lot more that you can change here. You've got a cursor theme and a nice selection of cursor themes, and I've currently got the DMZ white. And so that's pretty well what you're looking at as far as theme. It's fairly simple, but it's not going to be overwhelming to someone who gets in here and sees maybe 3 times as much stuff and really is put off by all of the options. Maybe it would be nice to see a few more icon packs in place. 3 is kind of limiting, but we'll dig in and see if that's something you could add. As far as cursor themes and everything are concerned, that's a pretty good selection. All right, so we'll go back from themes. Now, fonts is where I was pretty impressed, really. You got a slider here to adjust the size, and then if you look at the selection of fonts, there's not a tremendous number of fonts compared to what I've seen in other distributions, but the fonts that are here are pretty high quality. And then you've got some adjustments here for the standard font and the monospace font. Now we get over here to network. You can toggle on or off your network card, choose your wireless network, set up DSL, VPN, proxy, and your network details. You also have settings for Bluetooth, and then I really appreciate this. All of the settings that I've tested for anything to do with sound work exactly as they should. So when I went in to set up the input for my external monitor or microphone, then everything worked there as it should. Actually, nothing's going to change there. I'm just curious now why this one is selected when earlier, here I am saying everything worked as it should. Earlier I just had my external USB microphone selected, but now it's showing both. That's okay. It's doing what it's supposed to do. But I really like the way this is laid out. All right, and let's see here. We'll go back. We'll click that. Sound effects, so you can toggle that on or off. They've got some unique sounds, I'll just put it that way. Next up is time and date. Now this is an area where I had issues with previous versions, and here I had to go in and toggle off auto sync and manually select my time zone to get this to adjust, and then it took a while for it to actually switch over. Now there's one area I haven't been able to find yet, and that's an area to toggle on or off the 24-hour time. So right now that's what it's stuck at. Maybe I'll find that a little later with some more digging. Then you've got power management. I cannot talk this evening. Power management. So here you can adjust the time for your monitor to suspend or when your computer will shut down. Then you've got options for password requirement. If you wake up the monitor, toggle that on or off. Wake up the computer, and then suspend on lid close. You've got options there. Mouse and touchpad, so you've got settings there, and then you can test it with the little kitten here. Pointer speed, touchpad, and then keyboard and language. So all of this is all repeat delays, enable the numeric keyboard, cap locks prompt, things like that, system language, and then shortcuts. So you could add your own custom shortcuts, and I know for many of you that's a big deal. And then we have update and update settings. So under update settings, you've got auto download that you can toggle on or off. Now I tried to switch mirrors earlier because in the past, and it seems like now, I'm just not on the fastest mirror. And one way that you spot that is when you launch into the store, which I've got to find now. There we go, with these C icons. And this is an area, again, where Deepin really stands out. It's an absolutely beautiful store. Anyone who has spent time with Android on a tablet is going to come to this and kind of feel at home. Here you see Warzone. That's a fun game if you've never played it. You've got categories here, and they start off with rankings. So you go from rankings to internet, chat, music, video, graphics, so on and so forth, games, office, reading, development, system, and then others. So I like the fact that there are categories here. And then the way that things have been presented within the store, it's really attractive, well laid out, and anyone who has come from the Google Play Store or anything similar to that is going to look at this and kind of feel comfortable with this. Let's go over to rankings and just see what they pull in. But one of the things that I'll mention here, one of the negatives, and I'll have to find the appropriate server, is that some of these applications can take a really unusually long amount of time to install. Just as a quick example, VLC, and I could see why that would be ranked very well. Here's Firefox number 1. It installed, at what I would say would be a normal rate. It was plenty fast enough to install. And then I went over, and I know it depends on the size of the application, don't get me wrong there, but there were smaller applications that I installed that should not have taken as long as they did. So I'm going to go ahead while we're doing this, I'm going to click Install on the Opera browser. Now, here's an area where I've clicked on it. I wish that this window would remain that shows that it's installing, but it kind of goes away. All right, so let's jump over here and click on Firefox. Now this is an area again where I've seen problems in the past, and you're seeing it now. So once you click in, this is where things start to fall apart a little bit. There should be an image of the Firefox browser here. Now what I do like is you see here ratings, and you also see a history. All of that's great. Now here we go. So Opera installed. So that wasn't too bad as far as speed is concerned. And then they've got a related, and nothing pulls up there. But here you should see the image. You've got all this empty white space. And now we're going to load back in. So let's check out LibreOffice and see what happens there. Now here, this all pulls in, and you're seeing the images you should see. And so we should be able to scroll. So that's not working. There we go. Now it's scrolling. And you see a description. And of course, user comments. So, when it's set up and doing what it needs to do, it's really nice and really effective. But I've just found, and I have found this in the past as well, that it's just not 100% complete. But for the most part, it's got a great selection, and it's easy to navigate, and it's bright and colorful and attractive. So I think if they pull things in, and here's something that I think other developers should take a look at, and that's rankings. And as I look through this, I think that it's pretty fair here the way they've ranked things out. If you look at some of the offerings. So you've got, Kodi here. That's going to be ranked 17. I would think that would be ranked a little higher, but this is based on their own, I'm sure, results from users, whoever signed in and using this and ranking things. So, but at any rate, it's a pretty nice selection here of software in their top ranking. And we'll scroll down quite a bit. It's funny how you see Web Outlook and Web Office listed in here. Wireshark, there's Evernote, AD, Google Chrome, which they already had installed, but you'll see, so there's a difference. So it's installed, so when you hover over it, you can choose open as opposed to install. It would be nice to maybe see an indicator that you have it installed, but I guess you've got it installed anyway. And there's Geary, very nice. I'm going to go ahead and install Geary. I've really come to like Geary. All right, so we'll go down through a couple more categories here. So you've got Internet. And here you see Web Google Drive. That's going to take you into a web wrapper, I assume. We're going to have to dig into that later. Web Gmail, things like that. So they've intermingled web apps basically with standard Linux apps. But they've kind of presented it as it kind of, unless you know for sure. Now it says Web Gmail, but, well, let's just install that as well and we'll take a look at what that looks like. But if you weren't paying attention, you would just think, oh, hey, there's Outlook. All right, so let's go over here to chat and see what's loading within chat. Now some of these look like they're installing fairly fast. All right, so here you have Telegram, Messenger, let's see here, Corebird, Music here, Clementine, Audacity. So you're seeing some of the bigger names, Audacious, Rhythmbox, so on and so forth. Let's see if there's anything else that stands out. Under video, probably a lot here. You can tell sometimes it takes a little longer to populate. So everything from VLC, Kodi, OpenShot. I did not see Kden Live, but you do see VocoScreen. There's Deepin Movie, which is installed. All right, let's keep moving. GIMP, Inkscape, Blender. So you would expect to see those. Now here's another web one. Web Pixlr Editor. Games. Now this should be a big selection here. And don't worry, for video purposes I'm not going to keep going here, but because you get the idea. Now you can see this one has taken a lot longer to populate, and my guess is it's got a ton of games. Tell you what, let's minimize that. So while that's loading, we'll jump back over here and we'll see what the web version of Gmail looks like. So that's basically going to put it in a wrapper, in a window, and similar to maybe what you've seen with ICE, an SSB, and it's going to feel like an app more or less because it's not in the browser, it's in a window. So I think that's creative. All right, let's just jump back over here and see now. Yeah, there we go. So pretty large selection of games there. And let's just kind of look at some of the titles. Stunt Rally, Minecraft. Some of these I am just not at all familiar with. Now you've got a web version of Pac-Man, Alien Arena. Let's see here. There's Steam, which again pre-installed, and Warzone 2100 was in there earlier. Nice real-time strategy game. So, I guess you would say a so-so selection of games. All right, so the Deepin store there, I think once they refine this, and I am sure this is something they're always working on, I just really think this is a big part of what helps Deepin to stand out. All right, so visually, let's look at some other things because This particular segment is on the visuals and the UI and kind of how everything's looking. So we'll take a look at the Deepin File Manager. And of course you've got these weird looking icons here. Let's go back and change that. I want you to see. Let me see here. Come on, cooperate. So let's go into personalization. We'll go back into theme and we'll change back over to the default. Now let's go back in. So now you'll see here that they're polished icons. They, for the most part, are attractive if you like blue. It's pretty sparse. Everything's kind of white here. We could switch back over and you go to the dark. Well, that is the dark theme. Now that's disappointing. So the dark theme does not apply over. Oh, that's right. So the theme, while it's dark, it doesn't apply with all of the Deepin. So if we go into Deepin movie, it's going to be dark because you want that for a movie. But if you look at the calendar, for example, that's going to be white still. So the theme doesn't really apply over to some of the Deepin apps like it should. Let's see here. Let's go to another Deepin app. Deepin Screenshot, for example. All right, so that's just going to give me an option for the whole screen, I guess. There we go. So that doesn't really show you anything as far as themes. Let's look at something else. Image viewer. So that's going to be white. You would think that if the theme was going to be deep and dark, all right now, that you would see that through all of the apps, but for whatever reason you simply just don't see it through the Deepin apps. All right, so we'll go back over here to the File Manager, and kind of sparse. You've got a few settings, a few options here, and I think this could be improved the way things are laid out, because here, for example, you can't increase this window size. And so here you see advance and then ... TTINGS. I'm not sure here if this is something that'll be corrected for the final release. I would think that this would already be corrected. At any rate, you've got options here for open behavior, things like that, hidden files, the view. But again, it works as a file manager. Is it ideal? No, there are much better file managers. But overall, I mean, this will take care of what you need. Compress, share folder, create a link, send to desktop, things like that. You can go to a list view, so you have two views there. So one other area that we want to look at some of the changes is the wallpaper. So if we go to set wallpaper, you're going to see a pop-up here at the bottom, and then with your mouse wheel you can scroll through. Now I got to say, there's a beautiful selection of wallpapers here, and when you choose one, you've got an option for only desktop or only the lock screen. Now some of these I've seen in the past within Deepin, and some of these are new. Really beautiful. Alright, well, that about wraps it up for the overall appearance and the UI for this segment, and we'll follow this up with another digging into some of the Deepin tools. Alright, that's it for now. Thanks for watching.